at the easternmost point of the continental United States, where the Atlantic Ocean stretches endlessly and the fog rolls in like a living thing, stands West Quoddy Head Lighthouse. Its distinctive candy-striped tower has stood sentinel since 1808, a beacon to guide ships safely through the treacherous waters of the Quoddy Narrows. Here, the tide swirls with the world's highest velocity, turning the narrow channels between islands into deadly maelstroms. Mariners spoke of it in hushed tones, calling it a place where the sea could be both guardian and executioner. From the first beams of the lighthouse, its purpose was clear: to save lives. Yet the lighthouse itself became entwined with tales of loss, isolation, and something far less tangible than the dangers of the Atlantic. Those who came to live here often spoke of the weight of the ocean, the way the wind seemed to carry whispers of the past. Some nights, the fog would thicken until the cliff's edge disappeared, leaving the lighthouse keeper feeling as if he stood alone in the void. It was in this eerie solitude that the first ghost stories were born. The structure, a blend of brick and wood, was built on jagged cliffs that seemed to defy the sea's constant assault. Storms ripped through the coastline with violent intent, testing both the lighthouse and those who tended its light. Keepers wrote in journals about waves that climbed higher than ever recorded, and winds so strong they rattled the windows like the hands of unseen intruders. For mariners, the lighthouse was a guide. For its keepers, it was a constant reminder that life and death were only a glance apart. Constructing West Quoddy Head Lighthouse was no small feat. In the early 1800s, the cliffs were wild, jagged, and unyielding. Labourers battled harsh winds, treacherous tides, and bone-chilling winters. The stone and brick for the tower were hauled by hand, and each brick laid with painstaking care. Several workers fell to the cliffs or were swept away by rogue waves, deaths that were quietly recorded in the sparse ledgers of the lighthouse's early overseers. Some said the cliffs themselves were cursed, that the ocean claimed its dues for every structure built too close to its edge. Once completed, the lighthouse required constant attention. Its first keepers were men, and occasionally women, who understood the danger but also felt a strange unspoken pull to this remote outpost. Life here was isolated. Supplies were delivered infrequently, and the nearest town was miles away. Keepers spent long hours tending the light, cleaning lenses, polishing brass, and ensuring the oil lamps burned bright through fog, rain, and snow. Loneliness became an ever-present companion. Many wrote letters to loved ones, only to see them returned weeks later, waterlogged and faded. Some keepers spoke of shadows that moved where no one should be, of whispers in the dead of night that carried across the wind. Old journals mention a cold presence in the lighthouse, a feeling of being watched even when alone. At first, these experiences were dismissed as the mind's reaction to isolation, but over time, patterns emerged. Certain rooms felt perpetually cold. Doors would creak open on nights when no wind blew. Objects were occasionally found out of place, as though some unseen hand had moved them. Yet, despite these eerie sensations, the keepers carried on. The lighthouse was a duty, a sacred charge. And while many found comfort in the rhythm of tending the light, others could not escape the growing sense that West Quoddy Head had a memory of its own, and that memory was sometimes dark. The waters surrounding West Quoddy Head were as beautiful as they were treacherous. The Quoddy Narrows, a narrow channel where tides could shift more than 20 feet in a single day, were notorious for claiming vessels that dared navigate without caution. Shipwrecks were frequent, and their stories became entwined with the lore of the lighthouse. One particularly stormy November, the schooner Hannah May sought refuge in the Narrows. Dark clouds churned overhead, and the wind howled like a living thing. The crew had relied on charts that did not fully capture the fury of the tides, and soon the ship was battered against the rocks. At the lighthouse, keeper Elias Thompson watched the storm from his tower. Through the sheets of rain, he could see the ship struggling, its masts snapping under the weight of the gale. He lit every signal he could, desperately hoping the crew would see his warnings. The following morning, only fragments of the Hannah May remained. The bodies of the crew were scattered along the cliffs, many with expressions frozen in terror. Elias, haunted by the disaster, wrote in his journal, "I did all I could, yet the sea took them. I cannot help but feel their eyes still watch me when the wind blows." This sentiment was not unique. Over the decades, numerous vessels met similar fates. The lighthouse became a silent witness to tragedy, its light a fragile shield against the ocean's relentless power. Mariners often spoke of seeing phantom ships gliding through the fog, sails tattered, hulls creaking. Keepers, isolated and attuned to every sound, reported hearing distant shouts and the clanging of bells when no vessel was near. Local legend grew. The spirits of those lost at sea were drawn to the lighthouse, unable to leave the point where life had been cruelly stolen. Some nights, travelers reported hearing the unmistakable sound of footsteps climbing the cliffside, though no one was visible. Others claimed to see fleeting shadows through the tower windows, figures that vanished when approached. Storms seemed to awaken the lighthouse's spectral occupants, as if the fury of the sea was a call to those who had died within its grasp. West Quoddy Head stood as both protector and sentinel over the restless waters, a place where tragedy lingered, etched into every stone and whispered on every wind. As the decades passed, the lighthouse became more than a structure of stone and brick. It became a repository of memories, some joyful, many tragic. Keepers began to speak openly of experiences that could not be explained by wind or weather. West Quoddy Head had become a place where the veil between the living and the dead felt thin, especially on nights when the fog lay thick upon the cliffs. The first widely reported haunting involved keeper Samuel Whitmore in the late 1800s. Samuel was meticulous, dedicated to his duties, but prone to bouts of loneliness. One evening, while performing his nightly rounds, he noticed a figure at the base of the tower. At first, he thought it was a fisherman or lost traveller, but the figure wore clothing from a different century. Its face was pale, its eyes hollow. Samuel froze as the figure slowly raised a hand in silent greeting before disappearing into the mist. Other keepers shared similar tales. Footsteps echoed in empty hallways, voices whispered through rooms where no one had entered, and cold spots appeared in corners that should have been warm. Some journals spoke of fleeting reflections in mirrors, not their own, but those of strangers who seemed trapped in time. Candles would extinguish spontaneously, doors would swing open with no wind, and the tower lamps sometimes flickered even on calm nights. Mariners passing the lighthouse often reported seeing a light far below the tower, dancing over the cliffs, as if someone patrolled the precipice unseen. Many assumed it was another keeper, yet the lighthouse had long been automated or strictly monitored. Local legend grew. The lighthouse was haunted by those who had perished at sea, drawn to the light that had failed to save them. Even in the 20th century, visitors reported feeling a presence that was both protective and sorrowful. A young couple staying in the lighthouse keeper's house recalled waking to find the room filled with a faint, salty breeze and the sense of someone standing at the foot of their bed. Objects would occasionally move, and voices, sometimes whispering warnings, would echo through the empty halls. It was as if the lighthouse itself remembered every tragedy, every life lost on the cliffs or in the waters below. And with that memory came a spectral vigilance, a restless energy that lingered in the beams of the light and the crashing waves beyond. West Quoddy Head had become a place where history and the paranormal converged. A sentinel not only of ships, but of the spirits who refuse to depart. Among the tales of haunting at West Quoddy Head, none was as persistent or as chilling as that of the Phantom Keeper. Descriptions varied. Some saw a man in a weathered coat, lantern in hand, patrolling the cliffs at night. Others glimpsed a fleeting figure inside the tower, seemingly performing the nightly routines of long-past keepers. All agreed on one thing. The presence was unmistakable, as real as any living human, yet impossibly spectral. One story, passed down through generations of local fishermen, tells of a visitor who arrived at the lighthouse just after sunset. He had come to photograph the famed red and white striped tower, unaware of its spectral reputation. As the fog rolled in, the man noticed a figure at the edge of the cliff, holding a lantern that glowed faintly in the mist. The figure turned, revealing the hollow, sorrowful eyes of someone long dead. Terrified, the visitor fled, only to later discover that the figure appeared in every photo he had taken that evening. A faint, almost translucent silhouette standing silently at the cliffside. Keepers over the years reported similar encounters. Some awoke to find the lighthouse lamp mysteriously polished and lit, as if tended by unseen hands. Notes left in logbooks sometimes vanished or reappeared, with cryptic messages scrawled in a handwriting no one recognized. There were nights when multiple keepers witnessed the Phantom Keeper walking the parapets, checking the lenses, or even descending the spiral staircase to the living quarters. Always silently, always alone. Some believed the Phantom Keeper was the spirit of a man who had died performing his duties centuries ago. Others theorized it was a composite of every keeper who had ever served at West Quoddy Head, an amalgamation of devotion and sorrow, endlessly repeating the rituals that had once defined their lives. Regardless of its origin, the Phantom Keeper became both guardian and warning. Visitors spoke of a strange sense of being watched, of an unseen hand guiding them safely along the cliffs. Paranormal investigators drawn to the lighthouse reported odd electromagnetic readings and sudden drops in temperature near the areas the Phantom Keeper favoured. Electronic voice phenomena, EVP, captured faint, urgent whispers, often repeating a single word: light, safe, keep. It was as if the spirit sought to continue its duty even after death, ensuring that ships were guided and the living protected. Yet, the presence could also be menacing. Those who ignored warnings, straying too close to the cliffs during storms or attempting to tamper with the light, claimed to feel an icy grip on their shoulders or a sudden shove, as if the Phantom Keeper's sense of duty extended beyond life itself. Some locals said the figure's sorrow was eternal, a reminder that the lighthouse, while a haven, also bore witness to the price of maritime tragedy. West Quoddy Head had become a place of duality, a beacon of safety and a stage for the restless dead. The Phantom Keeper walked its halls, climbed its stairs, and patrolled its cliffs, a spectral sentinel ensuring that the line between life and death remained respected. West Quoddy Head Lighthouse had always been a place where the line between life and death was perilously thin. Over the years, the lighthouse claimed lives not only from the surrounding seas, but from accidents within its own walls. Maintenance work on the cliffs and the tower's height took its toll, and several keepers fell victim to the treacherous combination of fatigue, isolation, and the lighthouse's unforgiving environment. One of the earliest recorded tragedies involved keeper Thomas Brewster, who in 1824 was swept from the cliffside during a particularly violent storm. His body was never recovered, and many claimed that on foggy nights, the sound of a man's anguished cry could still be heard echoing from the cliffs. Another keeper, Eleanor Whitfield, survived a perilous winter when a supply boat failed to arrive. Starvation and frostbite left her weakened, and she reportedly spoke of shadowy figures urging her to climb the tower, as if guiding her to safety. Those who listened to her tales noted a haunting consistency in the figure's appearance, phantoms clad in the clothing of long-dead keepers, acting as protectors of the lighthouse and its inhabitants. Disappearance was another recurring theme. Sailors and visitors alike reported seeing people vanish near the cliffs, sometimes only to reappear hours or days later, disoriented and unable to explain their absence. One story tells of a young woman who visited the lighthouse in the 1930s to photograph the tower. She wandered along the cliffs and was swept up in a sudden fog. Hours later, she was found near the lighthouse entrance, drenched, shivering, and with no memory of how she had returned. Her photographs, however, captured a strange, misty figure standing behind her, a figure no one else had seen at the time. Even inside the lighthouse, accidents were commonplace. Spiral staircases were narrow and steep, and numerous falls were recorded over the decades. Some injuries were attributed to exhaustion or simple missteps, yet keepers often spoke of an unseen presence nudging them or guiding their movements, sometimes preventing catastrophe, sometimes causing it. One keeper wrote, "It feels as if the light itself has a will, and that it tests us in ways we cannot understand." The tragedies of West Quoddy Head were not only physical, but psychological. Long stretches of isolation, compounded by the relentless sound of the surf and the omnipresent fog, created a sense of being observed. Keepers reported hearing their own names whispered in the dark, or seeing shadows that mimicked their actions. Those who lived and worked at the lighthouse spoke of an oppressive weight, a combination of grief, duty, and something unexplainable that seemed to anchor the past firmly to the present. Even as the lighthouse evolved, modernized, automated, and open to visitors, these stories persisted. Guests would report sudden chills, objects moving of their own accord, and fleeting glimpses of figures in the corners of their vision. The tragedies of the past were etched into the very walls, and many believed the spirits of those lost at sea or on the cliffs remained, compelled to linger where the light met the dark. West Quoddy Head was more than a lighthouse. It was a repository of grief, heroism, and mystery, a place where the tragic history of those who served and those who sailed converged, and where the dead were never truly gone. Even in the age of electricity and tourism, West Quoddy Head Lighthouse maintained its reputation as a place where the past refused to stay buried. Visitors, staff, and paranormal enthusiasts all reported experiences that defied explanation, often echoing the stories recorded centuries earlier. One of the most compelling accounts came from a group of tourists who arrived on a fog-laden evening in the early 2000s. As they explored the lighthouse grounds, a sudden chill swept over them, forcing them to bundle their jackets tighter against a cold wind that seemed to come from nowhere. One of the visitors noticed a figure at the base of the tower, a man holding a lantern. He was dressed in old-fashioned clothing, and his pale face seemed etched with sorrow. When the group called out to him, the figure vanished instantly, leaving only the faintest shimmer of light behind. Photographs taken that night later revealed a ghostly outline where no one had been. Staff members working overnight in the lighthouse keeper's house have told of strange occurrences, objects shifting, lights flickering on and off, and whispers echoing through empty halls. In several cases, employees reported hearing the unmistakable sound of footsteps pacing the spiral staircase, even when no one else was inside. Some felt sudden, icy touches on their shoulders, as if a presence were guiding or warning them. Paranormal investigators who visited West Quoddy Head found the energy in the lighthouse particularly active. Electromagnetic field, EMF readings spiked near the tower's top, and thermal cameras occasionally captured fleeting human-shaped anomalies. Audio equipment sometimes recorded faint voices, often indistinct but occasionally clear. A whisper calling, "Watch the cliffs, stay safe." One investigator, reviewing footage taken on the cliffside during a foggy night, swore he saw the outline of the phantom keeper walking along the precipice, his lantern glowing like a candle in the mist. Locals, too, continued to share tales. Fishermen would avoid the cliffs at certain hours, claiming the feeling of being watched was too strong. Children playing near the lighthouse grounds spoke of seeing shadows that moved independently, or of hearing footsteps that were not their own. Some visitors left offerings, coins or small tokens, believing it would appease the spirits or honor the lost souls of the sea. These modern encounters reinforced a truth that had persisted for centuries. West Quoddy Head Lighthouse was more than a navigational aid. It was a living archive of human experience, carrying the weight of every tragedy, every lonely night, and every soul who had ever worked its stairs or been claimed by the surrounding waters. And while science and history could explain much of the lighthouse's presence, there remained a sense that something else lingered. A quiet, eternal sentinel watching over the cliffs, ensuring that both the living and the dead remained forever bound to the edge of the world. Today, West Quoddy Head Lighthouse stands as both a historic landmark and a destination for those drawn to its beauty and its mysteries. Its distinctive red and white stripes are instantly recognizable, a symbol of guidance and endurance at the very edge of the United States. Visitors walk the cliffside trails, marvel at the rugged coastline, and photograph the iconic tower, often unaware that they are stepping into a space where centuries of history and ghostly presence linger. The lighthouse has been preserved and partially automated, yet it retains much of its original character. The keeper's house has been restored and opened for tours, giving guests a glimpse into the lives of those who once tended the light. Inside, original furnishings, logs, and artifacts convey the harsh and isolated life of the keepers. Many visitors report feeling an inexplicable energy as they explore, a sensation that the past is still very much alive in the air. Guides often recount stories of the Phantom Keeper, the spirits of sailors lost at sea, and the countless tragedies that have unfolded along the cliffs. Tourists share personal experiences of chills, sudden cold spots, and the feeling of being watched. Some claim to hear distant footsteps or faint whispers, while others describe seeing fleeting shadows that vanish when approached. For many, these experiences are fleeting. For others, they are profound reminders that West Quoddy Head is a place where the boundary between the living and the dead is thin. Paranormal enthusiasts continue to visit, equipped with cameras, audio recorders, and EMF detectors. Some capture anomalies, a shadow on the spiral staircase, a sudden drop in temperature, or a whisper recorded in the silence of night. While skeptics dismiss many of these occurrences, the sheer number and consistency of reports give credence to the lighthouse's haunted reputation. Even in daylight, the lighthouse holds an otherworldly presence. The fog rolls in from the Atlantic, muffling sound and lending an eerie quiet to the cliffs. The wind carries with it the voices of the past, the laughter, the shouts, the cries of those who worked and perished here. Visitors sense a profound weight to the place, an awareness that they are walking in the shadows of countless lives shaped by danger, isolation, and devotion. West Quoddy Head remains more than a scenic landmark. It is a living chronicle of human endurance, maritime tragedy, and inexplicable phenomena. The ghosts of keepers past and lost sailors linger, a silent reminder that the lighthouse is both protector and witness, standing vigil at the edge of the world. West Quoddy Head Lighthouse has stood for over 2 centuries, enduring storms, isolation, and the relentless pull of the Atlantic. Its history is marked by bravery, tragedy, and an unyielding sense of duty. Yet beyond its historical significance lies a deeper, more mysterious truth. This lighthouse is a place where the past never truly leaves, where the living and the dead share the same windswept cliffs and fog-laden nights. For those who have walked its grounds, the experience is often both unsettling and awe-inspiring. The stories of phantom keepers, lost sailors, and restless spirits are not simply legends. They are reminders of lives lived in extreme conditions, of sacrifices made to guide others safely through the perilous waters. The lighthouse, in turn, has become a keeper of memories, a vessel for the emotions and energies of all who have touched it. Visitors often leave with a sense of reverence, sometimes tinged with fear. They speak of chills, whispers, fleeting shadows, and the inexplicable feeling of being observed. Some find comfort in the idea that the spirits are protective, guiding and watching over those who tread too close to the cliffs. Others are unsettled, sensing that the lighthouse's spectral inhabitants may be forever bound by duty, unable to find rest until their work is done. Even the natural world around West Quoddy Head contributes to the lighthouse's haunting presence. The tides roar with unmatched ferocity. The cliffs drop precipitously to jagged rocks below, and the fog can reduce the world to silence and shadow. In this environment, it is easy to believe in the stories, to feel the weight of every tragedy, every lonely night, every soul that has passed through its halls. The lighthouse endures, a sentinel of stone and light, bridging centuries of human experience. Its beams continue to guide mariners safely, while unseen eyes may still watch from the shadows, the phantom keeper silently performing his eternal duty. In the end, West Quoddy Head is more than a lighthouse. It is a testament to human courage, a monument to maritime history, and a stage for the unknown. Its stories of hauntings, accidents, and paranormal encounters are woven into its very fabric, ensuring that anyone who steps onto its cliffs becomes part of a narrative that is ongoing, ever present, and as enduring as the light itself. At the edge of the world, where land meets sea, the lighthouse stands unwavering, a beacon, a guardian, and a reminder that some histories are never truly behind us, and some spirits never truly depart.